My name is Taylor Keene, and I am the Campus GIS Coordinator for the University of Maryland, College Park. I'm really the Enterprise GIS Platform Manager, the Systems Administrator, sometimes Solution Engineer, Coordinator of Project Coordinators, and Data Managers. So what I'm going to be speaking about today includes the following topics. I'm going to go over our Enterprise GIS initiative, which was formally started in 2012 and led by Facilities Management. I'm going to also go over our model for GIS governance throughout our campus departments, our outreach initiatives, and how we ensure the system's sustainable. I'm also going to then do more of a hands-on demo and show and tell of our web mapping system. I'm going to go into some technical detail, but also do a live demo and hopefully conclude with that. And before that, I will also generally go over our plans for future enhancement and expansion of the enterprise system. So, for those of you who don't know where the University of Maryland is, it is located in northwestern PG County, Prince George's County, in Maryland, roughly 4 miles away from the northeastern DC border. Has anyone ever been to the University of Maryland? Okay. Wow. Yeah. Nice. So maybe almost a tenth of the people in attendance? Yes, right, true.
That's where I was.
Okay. So here's a view of our central campus. This is our main mall. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is the second longest mall in the United States on a college campus. I'll have to fact check that later. Yeah. You can redact that if it's incorrect. So at a glance, the University of Maryland is a fairly large institution. We have 37,000 students, 9,000 faculty and staff, over 250 academic programs. It's a fairly sprawling campus with 1,300 plus acres, 441 buildings, over 20 miles of sidewalk, roughly 20 miles of road, 66 miles of sidewalks, and over 15,000 botanical assets that have been individually inventoried. And for our facilities, we have over 15 million gross square feet. So this presentation is going to include a number of slides that we used as part of our push to get buy-in from campus administration over the years. So I'm going to just mention when I'm showing those slides, and then we're going to go through a timeline of really the history of the UNB Enterprise GIS initiative. So, just generally speaking, to engage our campus administrators, we had to get to the very foundation of what is GIS, what is enterprise GIS, how can information systems be integrated and used as a point of convergence for making educated and informed decisions. So, generally speaking, this is one of those slides. So what is GIS? What is geographically framed information? So really, I'm including these slides because I think there's value in showing our history and the strategy that we used, and also for inspiration for your own institutional enterprise initiatives at your campuses. And I would also urge you to please borrow heavily from my presentation, which I think will be made available after, for your own efforts at your institutions. So here's another one of those slides. What does Enterprise GIS do that Google Maps cannot? Generally speaking, having our own hosted mapping system allows us to have an assurance of accuracy. We have the ability to update it based on our needs and our time frame. We can include any level of detail that we choose to. We also, very interestingly, when we do link to public base maps, find unwanted inclusions and problems in the mapping. For instance, I just showed someone this morning that our main administration building is labeled Panda Express right now in Google Maps. And that's just a losing battle, really, to try to fight the crowdsourced Google Maps. And even OpenStreetMap contains a variety of incorrect information. So really, it's just having authoritative mapping content, directly controlling how your campus is represented to the public, and also just usability for your own institutional purposes. So why Esri? Many of you, most of you, I would imagine, are benefiting from the Esri Educational Site License, as we are. It is relatively cheap. I mean, all things considered, it's a great resource. For the entire University System of Maryland, 12 institutions, I believe we pay $45,000, and there's a $1,000 departmental buy-in. So very reasonable. We also have access to, of course, all of the software and technical support, which has been invaluable in setting up our system at UMD. And in addition to that, when you're training staff and interns, there are also the e-learning courses that are available through the site license. Also, of course, ArcGIS Online allows for easy dissemination of GIS resources to the public or to departments for specific access and, of course, security and privacy control. And also, we have taken advantage of the local government information model for our geodatabase schemas as the foundation. I'll go into that in more detail. And also, when using your information in that format, you can directly take advantage of a lot of the maps and application templates that Esri puts out there. And also, the ArcGIS for JavaScript API is now what we use for all of our applications. So, why should campus mapping be in a centralized system? Really, it allows an assurance that the best version of campus data is accounted for and the system of record is known, and there's an ability to actually verify that, yes, everyone agrees this is the most up-to-date and detailed and best version of that data set. So also, centralizing information forces increased communication between departments. So that's a very nice side effect of having a central enterprise system. Of course, it allows us to then identify gaps in the information that we're maintaining and eliminate redundancies of effort in maintenance of data or data sets. And of course, ideally, it is easy to integrate with other campus information systems across various departments. And establishing a central group to maintain this system ensures that we're able to institutionalize the expertise and have sustainability that way. So here's a little graphic showing just what does a singular enterprise system or linked series of systems give you that independent siloed systems don't. Well, obviously, it does everything that I mentioned in the previous slide, but it saves money. There's less infrastructural overhead, less staff dedicated to these independent systems, and it really just is a win-win across the board. So this is just a very general overview. Ideally, in an enterprise system, it's set up to be able to grow as your institutional needs do. So it's highly scalable. It's extensible. Once you build a component, you can rapidly redeploy it with a few tweaks for other purposes. It's secure to the standards that you need. And if it's standards-based and you design interoperability tools, you can ensure that other systems that are linked continue to function as they need to. And it really does deliver a return on investment. So this is another one of those high-level, very basic slides. So benefits by campus stakeholder groups. So everything from visitors, students and their parents, to emergency services and faculty and staff. I mean, clearly, just it makes everyone's lives easier. It enhances access to information, and it ensures the people that need information have access. So I'm not going to dive in too deep in these slides, but I will leave that for you to investigate later. So more on that, really, this is just how do we make an enterprise system come into being using a map. So to do this, we exposed campus information using a foundational campus base map. That was the very beginning of everything that allowed us to frame everything in a common context. Then we were able to geolocate our various campus services and facilities and then build out information related to that. And of course, having everything in GIS provides a common context for information management and really a convergence point for other information systems. Having it web accessible and linked to other systems really provides the value of enterprise GIS. And I'm going to go into a few of these other categories in later slides. So this is the really the summary slide that we used to present to our administrators back in 2012. Really, this is what we could expect to realize when we do have a functional enterprise GIS. Obviously, having the information accounted for, tracked, having sustainable information management life cycles, ensuring that departments are communicating where they need to be, and also providing better operational awareness and decision-making tools for administrators. Okay, so this is a very detailed timeline, which I will go through in subsequent slides. So we really got started with the Enterprise GIS initiative in 2010. Before then, we had a CAD base map, which did eventually start using common geographic coordinates, but before then, just a couple of years before 2010, we were using a proprietary coordinate system, which made it very difficult to add other information from external sources, and just to do anything really with our mapping. We did, before 2010, have an ArcPad-based campus tree inventory. Has anyone ever used ArcPad here? Do you remember that? Okay, a few. Is anyone still using it? Okay, that would be kind of surprising. So in 2010, we did a full base map overhaul. So using our CAD information that we had, we did pay for a very detailed stereoscopic imagery-based vectorization of campus. So we used that, we developed it into Polygon GIS feature classes and began to classify it as different land cover types. And then we were able to build out our operational layers on top of that, so parking lots, roads, buildings, etc., to develop a prototype campus map, which we did in 2011. And that involved really kind of a skunk works type of operation. It was unsanctioned, and just a few key collaborators got together and said, hey, we don't have a functional public campus map. This is embarrassing. Let's see what we can do using facilities-based information. And so we were able to stand up a very basic interactive and searchable map that had a base map and had, I think, initially parking lots and buildings that were searchable with basic pop-ups. So this got a lot of people's attention. We had an actual tangible thing that we could show off to get buy-in and communicate the benefit of GIS to our administrators. So having this in hand, in 2012, we formed a Campus GIS steering committee, which I will go into in some detail. And key results of that were the execution of a campus-wide needs assessment to verify and explore what was lacking related to mapping and information access throughout departments, and also a peer review, so peer benchmarking to look at other institutions of our size to see exactly where we stood among them. And coming out of that, very fortunately, we were able to get administrative buy-in And then we set up formal data maintenance agreements with the various departments contributing data to the system. And we were able to get a promise for future hosting by the CIO for Campus Enterprise GIS from that point forward. And then in 2013, we actually had the plan with task forces identified with their missions, and we actually enacted those, and we then developed our enterprise mapping platform and stood up the first version of the campus map, which came out in 2013, November 1st, 2013. And I will go into some more of the timeline later. But so to add some detail here. So this is a view of the, at the time, property holdings of the University of Maryland. So everything in green is within our property boundary. All this information that you see on the left there was something that we had a representation of in AutoCAD. So initially our polygon base map was just a very simple map, but it allowed us to demonstrate the information retrieval and analysis capabilities of GIS, which allowed us to pave our way forward for future applications. So in 2012 to 14, we completely overhauled our geodatabase, containing our core base mapping and feature layers to use the local government information model. How many institutions in here today use LGIM or some rendition of it? Okay. So we use it as a baseline when we add a new feature request, when we have mapping available or data available, and then we, of course, hybridize it based on our business needs for other applications. So in 2012, we formed the formal GIS steering committee, whose principal charge was to come up with a enterprise GIS implementation plan. We worked on this for almost, actually over a year. We finalized it and transmitted it to our administration for sign-off in December 2013. We conducted a needs assessment starting in 2012, which I mentioned, and we developed 5 different task forces reporting to the steering committee. Our participants included the following departments: facilities management, facilities planning, which is my group, and the main enterprise GIS staff are still in this group. We got a lot of great initial support from our facilities IT services. We stood up a lot of prototype systems on their infrastructure. Eventually we moved to the campus's IT, and we got a lot of support from both our Department of Transportation Services and our Department of Public Safety, or the police department, and we got a lot of data from them. And for our outreach and engagement task force, we had representatives from our administration and finance department and the campus outreach office, or community outreach office rather, it should be, and also our conferences and visitor services group. And we had on the steering committee representation from our Department of Geographical Sciences and the Department of Computer Science. So these following slides are very text and detail heavy, so I'm not going to dive in too deeply. But I wanted to include them for your use later if you're working on your own implementation plan. So just our core goals for our enterprise GIS initiative were really centralizing and streamlining information management, then ensuring that we could expose it for use in campus systems and provide it to those who need it. So yeah, this is one of those slides. I'm not going to really talk about it too much. I don't know if you can even read it all the way back there. So really the whole point is to centrally manage asset information, to facilitate better planning and analysis, to ensure that we can get information to the people that need it, and to provide better operational awareness of all campus activities. And of course, geo-enabling other information systems where possible, like the calendar, the schedule of classes, and so on. So again, one of those slides. So GIS data quality, standardized and well-documented data structures and maintenance workflows are essential. Ease of use, We would ensure usability of systems to those that need it. And so integrated GIS, designing data and services to be used with systems, ensuring that integration is easy and also built with future expansion in mind. And as part of our strategic plan, we needed to ensure sustainability, so we went out of our way to plan to ensure that. And for training, we actually created a CampusJS user group in addition to focused project and initiative teams, and we continue to communicate to them with a reflector email address and ensure that they're aware of whenever making changes to the system or when significant data changes or releases are happening. So this is the result of our implementation plan. The majority of task force activities took place in 2013. In our needs assessment that began in 2012, we determined that there really weren't that many active GIS desktop users, and many of the campus asset inventory managers using their various systems seemed to be pretty pleased with the way everything was working. However, the real selling point and the impetus for actually building our web mapping system was, of course, having an effective and modern campus web map. That was the driving force, singularly, you could say. Also, through a peer review of other institutions at our perceived level, we found that we were outrageously out of date with what we were providing to the public. Even our print maps at the time were not that great. And so we were able to effectively get action through shaming our institution. And that really worked. So action taken. After all these findings were presented along with the strategic implementation plan, which I did include some snippets of some of the language in previous slides, we did finally get formal administrative support. And as I mentioned, we did get a commitment to a sustainable campus web mapping system from our division of IT, and also we were told that we were allowed to proceed with coming up with a sustainable organizational system for, and also devoting our staff time to making sure that all of the core base maps and related operational layers for the campus map were maintained into the future. And also with the vision of trying to grow the system and engage stakeholders on a routine basis. So the task force is mobilized. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but outreach and engagement was absolutely essential in ensuring that we actually talked to stakeholders, and they allowed us also to better prioritize exactly who we reached out to first. And the technical and applications task force also provided some sanity checks for the various requests that we had, what was actually feasible given the technology and complexity of what people were asking for. And then we built out our system to support initially just the campus map, but also with the scalability to support other campus applications and other data sets as well. And I'm going to go into some detail on that later. And of course, the data task force, which is absolutely essential for the sustainability of the system, set data structure requirements and ensured that there were maintenance and upkeep agreements with established contributors. So data stewards had to be identified and signed off by their department heads, and also agreed upon refresh cycles for the data participating in the system. So we then, after releasing the campus map successfully and working with our task forces, we then, starting in 2014, grew the system. We continued to, I should mention, we also, using the web app builder for ArcGIS, the developer version, we created a mobile version of the campus map. And we also created a template that we use for a lot of our rapidly deployed facilities management applications, which I'll show you more on soon. And we also got into the use of ArcGIS Online. That was made available in late 2012. We actually started using it in 2013 for several asset inventories for various departments. And around that time, and also in early 2014, we started using it to host public versions of our data sets. And also, we created a number of story maps for campus tours and things like that. Okay. So just a broad overview. We did get support from campus administration to develop our enterprise GIS. We created a steering committee for engagement and assurance of sustainability. We had an interactive proof of concept campus map that we were able to use. And that was absolutely essential for getting buy-in, having something that spoke for itself, and not having to just abstractly describe something to someone who might not be familiar with GIS or web mapping or actually understand how everything comes together. And as I mentioned, we released it in 2013, and now we're seeking to expand the system. We're trying to publicize it more and more, and we're trying to, what I like to say, institutionalize it with other campus mapping or other campus information systems, embedding it where appropriately in departmental websites, anything that we can map that makes sense to map, we're trying to do so now. And we're also exploring, for future growth, a fees for service model for developing applications for other University System of Maryland institutions, and we're really just getting started with that. So, lessons learned. We believe that our relative success was generally possible because we had core data ready for use. We actually had something that we could almost release as a functional public map when going into the whole strategic plan. We, over the years, accumulated a great deal of expertise for GIS and web development, which continues to grow. And as I mentioned, the proof of concept web map was completely essential for administrative buy-in. And both the needs assessment and peer review gave us information that we needed to convince our administrators that our suggestions were the way to go. So where are we now? What have we accomplished and what's next? So I'm going to, in the following slides, go into a bit of detail on our systems and data and applications. So this is probably very confusing looking to everyone, but this is our current on-premises infrastructure for our GIS systems. We have, like most institutions, 3 environments. We have a dev environment, we have a testing or quality assurance environment, and of course a production environment. At the moment, both our QA and prod deployments use siloed ArcGIS server sites that are independent, so it's kind of a pain to just deploy updates to both applications and services server site by server site. And we've kind of scripted that, but it's still a headache. And also we, I should mention, have 2 data centers on campus. So one of our QA sides is in the primary data center and the others in the secondary. And for production, we have 2 in each. And we also still actively have an FM-hosted system for the majority of our field and asset inventories. And in our next deployment, and I should also mention that we use Oracle for our enterprise geodatabases, and we also have databases in all 3 environments. So moving on, we've been looking at deploying in the cloud for reducing our administrative overhead. Also, it's quite fast based on the initial tests that we've done, and we're looking forward to having a single portal system where everything is federated and It's easy to redeploy if we need to add more RAM and things like that. How many groups in here are using Amazon or Microsoft for their ArcGIS server infrastructure? Anyone? No one. What about on-premises ArcGIS server? Okay. Wow, only a few. So, what about ArcGIS Online? Okay, yeah. So as I mentioned, we immediately jumped at the opportunity to explore the use of ArcGIS Online when we got access, which I believe was in November 2012. So we set up a public-facing site, which if you attended the pre-conference workshop yesterday, George Daly brought up briefly. And you can get to it if you would like from that URL. So for our users, we added our own on-premises hosted base maps. We configured the base map list. We, of course, set up groups. We, at the moment, I believe, have roughly 30 groups in our main ArcGIS Online site. And we have over 200 users. Many of them have been invited. Lots of administrators who have never signed in, but we have over 200 users. And we do, for the most part, not really use hosted feature services. We just register our on-premises feature services and for use in applications like both just the web view, but also Collector for ArcGIS. And we very actively use Collector for ArcGIS. That replaced ArcPad as soon as we got a handle on how to use it. And we have good Wi-Fi connectivity throughout campus, but we also, for facilities management field inventories, use 4G-enabled tablets for all of our data collection. And we have, I would say, probably close to 20 institutional asset inventories right now. And of course, Collector is great because you can set up the pop-ups and expose the fields for editing that you need to and constrain it to that for different purposes. So we actually have certain inventories, like our tree inventory, that we have multiple versions of for people with different skill sets. Like the arborist, for example, has a much more detailed view and can access more attributes and hazard ratings and things like that, let's say, a semesterly plant sciences intern who's just remeasuring the trees might not have access to. Also, ArcGIS Online story maps, we have a bunch of those. We would like to update them. They've been out for a while, and we're actually curious about the App Studio application, which Esri debuted at last year's user conference. And we're thinking that we can probably create a native app that just has like a table of contents for our various campus tours that would be explorable. And that's going to be a fall semester R&D project for interns. So, talking about staffing, this is our current complement of enterprise GIS staff and related systems. So we're based in the facilities asset inventory group and facilities planning in our facilities management division. You can see that my group consists of a GIS support specialist who just ensures that she's really like a project coordinator and systems administrator. She really just does everything enterprise GIS. We also now are fortunate to have a dedicated WebGIS specialist, and we have graduate students that roll over every 2 years when they graduate. We also have supplying the information that we then expose through applications. We have a mapping group who maintains our core base mapping and infrastructural geodatabase. She works with the GIS specialist who helps us prep our base maps, does topology checks and things like that. We also have a CAD utilities drawing manager who we've been working with recently to expose simple views of our utilities, which I will show in future slides. And we're really just getting started with the GIS utilities. It's a brave new and very complicated world, as many of you have probably seen for yourselves, if you're just getting started from CAD to GIS. Also, we are also looking at interior space GIS, and we have a floor plan or architectural drawing manager, and I'm going to go into some of those details later. So right now, all of our base mapping is in GIS. We do supply CAD format base mapping and cells for our architects and engineers, but at the moment, our system of record for floor plans and utilities are both CAD, and our floor plans are not georeferenced, which has been challenging, but we've worked our way through that whole process. So in the future, we are planning to hire a more experienced application developer and also a data specialist who will assist with the whole effort to get our interior spaces and utilities into GIS format. And we would be probably nowhere without the support we've received from our academic interns. If you're curious on how we attract interns, if you go to the URL listed there, that's the flyer that we distribute online through the Career Center website, and we also actively go to the Department of Geographical Sciences career fair and recruit interns, and they do work for academic credit only. We do not pay them. And we have roughly 4 to 5 interns every semester, and to date we've had over 50 interns since we formally started the partnership with our Department of Geographical Sciences in 2012. And as I mentioned, it's all for credit. And we do ask for 140 hours per semester for a 3-credit internship course. And we do have minimum requirements too. They need to have at least some basic GIS, which is pretty essential. However, we have waived that for interested computer science students who are just interested in application development. Okay, moving into the campus map. How many people here today before this conference have seen the University of Maryland campus map? Okay, a good amount. So if you are interested in checking that out, please do. There's the URL and a QR code, and I will be doing a demo of it as well. So to dive into some details on that, some technical details, right now we are using ArcGIS Server 10.3.1 for all of our infrastructure. We are also using the ArcGIS for JavaScript API version 3.16. We do have plans to eventually move to 4.0 once it supports some key functionality like printing and other things, which it currently doesn't. We do connect to various external data sources. In our building pop-ups, we connect to our NetFM insight-based building database to expose attributes for buildings. We do also have connections to our shuttle tracking feed through our Department of Transportation Services, and we also do connect to the WMATA Metro data feed as well for rail and bus arrival times. And as I mentioned, the mobile version of the site, which loads automatically based on your detected browser and OS, was built using the web app builder for ArcGIS. So some basic stats. I believe this was refreshed on June 1st. We've had over 500,000 sessions, and roughly these days we have over 1,000 daily sessions. As a breakdown of what browsers and OS are hitting it, we possibly because our developers are hitting it so often, have a lot of Chrome, but that's also very popular. And then of course Safari follows, followed by Firefox, IE, and Edge lag behind as you would expect. And for the mobile OS's iOS by far dominates. It's close to 3/4 or 75%. You can see just the general usage patterns over time. We've all of those spikes coincide with the beginning of a semester, and you can see that it's growing. Every semester we get more active users, and you can also see over on the right of the timeline that our baseline, our general ambient use of the map has grown considerably as well. And I said, yeah, roughly 1,000 daily users. Oh, and also, we entered the map into this year's UC's map gallery, and we were fortunate that we won 2 awards. We received first place in use of an API, and also in the user-judged user applications fair, we received 3rd place. And there's a tweet from the UC that actually has a photo of a slide that was presented at the closing ceremony. Okay, so I think I'm going to probably just hold off until the end to do the demo and field questions. But some noteworthy features of our campus map that make it unique. We actually have created a number of custom hybrid base maps, and we've cached down to 282 scale in most web mapping systems, at least as of a year or so ago. That generally stops at 1,000 scale. So we go 2 levels below that, and we're doing that for both the ability to more precisely pinpoint features on the ground, but also as we begin to move into interior space, you need to be able to zoom into that level to actually see rooms in meaningful detail. As I mentioned, we've incorporated, actually I didn't mention that yet, but we've included Google Street View in the map, and we also, for our pedestrian pathways, have linked to Esri's World Elevation Services for elevation transects, and I'll show you that in further slides. I did mention that we do connect to regional transportation service provider data feeds, and we do have a live connection to our building database. Also, one of the most useful features, I think, in our map is our use of custom URL variables to define the map's behavior, and I'll show you a lot of detail in that soon. And that allows a user to generate a map view that they can embed on their own departmental websites or just share in an email to focus on a feature. And as I mentioned, the mobile versus desktop map load behavior is determined by dynamic detection of the device's OS and screen size. So one thing that we did to ensure that our base mapping was accurate and looked like we wanted to be represented, we participated in the Esri Community Maps program, and we, as you can see, in 2014 submitted a lot of detail. We're about to push another update. So before and after. So this is a pedestrian wayfinding screenshot, building to building navigation. We currently have pre-computed routes between our buildings. We also feature accessible routing options, which avoids stairs and crosswalks that do not include depressed curbs for wheelchair access. And we've also integrated the elevation profile function using Esri's World Elevation Services. And this is what the mobile version of the site looks like, and a lot of the same functionality has been included in that. We also, this is on the left, what it looks like to a user who's generating their own custom view of the map. And we also provide a mechanism for direct contact to us through a contact us form, which you can see on the right. And our help desk through the Division of IT actually fields all of the initial questions, and if there isn't something that they can answer, that they don't have a boilerplate response, they then forward it to us and we address it. So over the years, we've involved a number of stakeholders. So starting with the release of the map, initially we worked with our Department of Transportation Services, UMPD, and our conferences and visitor services. Then in the following years, we've worked with our dining services, the Office of Sustainability, our President's Commission on Disability Issues. In 2015, we did a whole series of building amenities, including gender-inclusive restrooms, lactation feeding rooms, and family restrooms. And this year, we are also working on a full campus inventory of accessible restrooms, which will, when that's finalized and QC'd, be added to the campus map. And we very recently, in a partnership with the City of College Park, installed bike share stations throughout the city and campus, and we've added that as a layer to the map. So a pretty neat example of how custom URLs can actually be used to load the map with a specific behavior set in an embedded map is actually in use by dining services. So if you go to the following URL, or the URL that you can see, they include a view of the campus map that features their layers, and this is the campus map, but just loaded on their page with the behavior that they want. So here's a view of the various building amenities. More to come, and as we include and have everything geo-referenced in interior space, we'll be able to more precisely locate these amenities within buildings, because at the moment, for the most part, we just allow them to be placed at the centroid of the building polygon, which becomes really confusing when you turn on a bunch of layers. So eventually we'll be adding that. So in 2015, we had a whole effort to assign campus addressing, street addresses to buildings. Previously, it was just LaFrac Hall Building 50. Good luck finding it, emergency services. You need to have knowledge from the campus to be able to successfully navigate. Eventually, this will also be, of course, included in public web mapping systems, and people will be able to use it for deliveries and directions driving into campus. So this is the web app builder for ArcGIS. We've created a simple template that allows us to rapidly deploy applications. We have our own custom widgets too that we can plug in as needed. So on the right, you can see the mobile version of the interactive campus map. We also created a Maryland Day application. Maryland Day is a campus-wide celebration in late April, where the entire campus is open to the public. There are a variety of departmental showcases, and there are tents all over the place. There's free attractions, just a lot of things going on campus, and we've provided the ability to search for features based on location, keywords, time of day, and also it works on mobile. And we utilize the HTML5 geolocation API to allow users to find events close to them. And we plan on using that same functionality for other campus applications in the future. Part of our proof of concept POC exploration of interior space, we created a simple floor plan viewer with various symbology and query functions. Also, just very simply, to date, there's been no way to communicate to anyone coming from another building where a meeting room is. So here's an example of a simple to use room selector application that we've not made live yet, but we will probably this fall, that allows a user to simply specify a building and room, or room type and room, and it also presents the closest accessible entrance. So we think this will be used a lot and well received once it's released. So in getting from our CAD-based floor plans, we actually used our own Python tools that we developed over the years with graduate assistant support. And we've now developed them into much more user-friendly ARC toolbox tools that anyone can use. And there are input parameters that specify a building list, load an XML file or XLS file for a list, and other parameters as well. We also took a look at Esri City Engine. However, and this was back in 2012. I think, however, our next foray into web scenes will be done using ArcGIS Pro, which we've just started to explore, and we'll definitely be using a lot more this fall semester. We will also be releasing, probably in the winter, a fully featured Arboretum Explorer application that allows users to search for specimens. And this is a request from our Building a Landscape Services unit who manages the campus Arboretum. And they need this functionality to meet the requirements of a particular certification. I think it's called ArbNet. So this was done to support that. We've also created a snow command application, which allows that same group, Building a Landscape Maintenance, to actively track the activities during a snow event and the treatment statuses of our various features on campus. And we've also created a companion dashboard using the operations dashboard for administrators to view that same information and get summary statistics and reports to better determine what the status of snow treatment is on campus at that time. And we've also added the full archiving and reporting functionality so you can recall events too if you need to pull it up for whatever reason. And we have definitely had in the past people who have slipped and fallen and sued the university, and we were able to pull up the detail that this person was deployed. They did actually ice and treat, or not ice, but salt and shovel the location where the fall happened, and I'm not sure what our legal team did with that information, but we had it for them. Also, basic utilities. This was designed to supplement our paper-based utilities map book, which is a very cumbersome thing to have out in the field. And also, as soon as you hit print and generate that huge map book, the next hour there could be a change in the data, or actually a change on campus that won't be reflected until the next map book is printed. So this was designed with a series of ETL tools and Python scripts to take our CAD-based information into GIS rapidly and expose this for people who need access. And of course, this is secured. It's not public. So moving into the future, I'm not going to dwell on this slide, but I can just gloss over where we're going next. So we would very much like to, in our snow command application, start tracking our snowplows and also potentially our ground crews using ArcGIS for collector. We have a number of ideas. I mentioned the Arboretum Explorer application. For our campus stakeholders that we are seeking to engage in the fall, it's very likely that we'll be reaching out to our intercollegiate athletics group and also campus recreation and wellness. And there's a number of missing student services that we're well aware of that we need to add, and we'll probably be working on that in the near future. So moving on. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip this. But just going down to the campus map section, we would very much like to have dynamic routing, because how often is someone lost on campus needing to find a destination, able to say, okay, here I am, I have to enter my origin manually versus I'm here, I need ad hoc directions to where I need to go. So we'd like to add that. We'd also really like to add layer usage tracking, just to know who's using what layers, and potentially even log some of the search keywords that are used. So some of our core areas for future enhancement, my term that I like to use, institutionalization of campus mapping, integrating it with other information systems, enabling other departments and groups with current GIS tools, and adopting newly released and currently unexplored systems and technologies, and also reaching out and doing more with our academic departments on campus. So low-hanging fruit for institutionalizing the campus map. We've still not successfully done this with our scheduling office, but we're hoping to very soon just enable users of that system to just click Map My Class So initially it would be the building footprint level, and eventually we can have room level information. So calendar system, same deal. If it mentions a location, we can map it. We can provide that information to the user. Campus service request application. This would just pretty much be like, I've noticed this issue, and it could be linked to our work order management system, which is also not geo-enabled at this time, which we're seeking to do in the near future. And that, by the way, is IBM Tririga. And of course, embedding our map throughout other departmental websites. So this section is really just doing more to support our campus institutional managers. So wherever possible, finding problems with workflows, addressing them, simplifying and streamlining things, and giving them tools, especially for asset inventories, that are far more usable and allow easy reporting and data query functionality. And ideally, all of this, these tools are mobile accessible, so field access is possible. So this is just a bunch of technical stuff. These are areas that we'd like to explore. I mentioned Amazon hosting. We would love to have a landing page for our various Campus GIS services, and we've been looking at other institutions throughout the world for inspiration on that. We'd love to start using Portal. We currently aren't. And using ArcGIS Pro, we would very much like to explore vector tile base maps because on mobile, frankly, our cache base maps just look awful, the labeling. We'd love to do more with 3D web scenes. We still need to enable SSL on all of our systems. I'm not sure if anyone noticed in their own locational services apps that at version 50 of Chrome, non-SSL location no longer functions. That was roughly 1 week, I think, before the user conference. So we scrambled to fix that. No, sorry, that was before Maryland Day, so back in April. Also, of course, just simplifying the user sign-on experience and account management from our administrators. So we're going to be looking at SAML, and we currently don't use a code version control system, but we do have a GitHub subscription that we're hoping to piggyback onto through the university. And for research and teaching support, we really just want to do more, providing our data, making sure it's more usable and accessible to various groups on campus, but also getting them to contribute their own ideas and incorporate interesting things that they might come up with in the campus map in an official capacity. So I'm running out of time, aren't I? Okay. I will speed up. Got it. So some of our main challenges for getting Enterprise JS off the ground included people saying that they just didn't want to change. That's very common. So to break through that, we just had to provide them tools that were so good and new methods that were so useful that they just couldn't refuse. And we've had a number of success cases, in particular with a lot of our asset inventory management groups. And the key there is to just ensure that it's useful and easy to use. Also, our data management has been challenging. People, while they formally agree to update cycles and QC of data, don't always do that. So it's always been a challenge to catch up everyone to the schedule that we need. And also, if we link to external systems, and people change that content, the directory structures, everything's broken. And we run into that very frequently, unfortunately. So, pathways to success. I mentioned all of these things, really. I cannot stress enough how important the use of student talent and labor was to get where we are today. Our Campus GIS internship program has been invaluable, as are our facilities graduate assistants. With that, I think I should probably conclude and open it up for questions. Yes?
How are you funded?
We are funded through, for staffing, our administration and finance division
So
directly.
Are you all general fund or recharge or?
General fund. We're lined, yes. And we do have some contingent positions still in our unit, yes.
I noticed in the last two slides or so, you're hoping to engage the research community or the academic side of the house more.
Yes.
What were the problems in doing that when you initially started this endeavor?
Well, initially we weren't in a place where we had a mature platform to really do anything with. So people had a lot of ideas. At this point, we do have a pretty good ArcGIS server infrastructure and web application system, so we could rapidly include new functions and apps as they might come about. So we just weren't in a place to really support that. Yes?
How do you maintain the campus map base? Because I know new projects that come up online, they come in CAD or Revit. So how do you?
We, our mapping unit uses everything. I don't know, there's a upcoming presentation called Why You Should Not Use As-Builts for Mapping. But we use as-builts, and then we verify those with aerial imagery as we gain access to keep all of our infrastructural base mapping up to date. Yeah. Yes.
If you're general fund now, why the reason to go to the fees for service?
Well, because we would like to add more positions, and that's been challenging to sell. Yes.
You've mentioned that you're interested in moving to the interiors of buildings. How are you addressing the security issues associated?
We would not initially expose that to anyone but our institutional management departments. So public safety, our environmental safety and sustainability group, and of course facilities management. And we would probably have a focus group to determine what level of access we are able to provide to the public. So that's to be determined, really. Any other questions? Yeah.
Any use of consultants?
No.
For all of this, or all in-house?
No. I think I have. Oh, here we go. Last point. It's all in-house. So staff, students, and faculty. Any other questions?
How about utilities? How do you plan to implement utilities?
We actually need to go through a whole process where we almost have to remap all of our utilities using GPS, which we currently don't utilize at all. And we are thinking of using consultants for that initiative just because it's so big. And eventually we would love to have everything that you can do with utilities. So functional networks where you can model flow, you can introduce breaks, you can do all of that stuff. And energy metering too. We do have systems that are not linked to GIS currently, but we'd like to explore that. Any other questions? We don't really have time for a demo, do we? Okay.
Want to stay? Stay back. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.